It's with great pleasure that we're here to share proactive and practical solutions and information related to proactive planning for seniors and their aging journey. We are hoping today you'll have some takeaway nuggets of information that will resonate to all. And we do understand that there are many US audience and family members who may be here with us today. And although we are a Canadian company, as Fanny mentioned, many of the tips and resources that we will be speaking to may be applicable to families all across North America, those who are taking care of aging loved ones. So we'll take it away from here.
Okay, I would like to start with our company's mission, vision, and values here at Bayshore Home Health. It's very important that I share this information with you because it's one of the things that I do value here. And with our mission, it's our time with our clients, how we treat one another, and the quality of work that we do. That is truly our mission. And the time that we know that we are in the homes, that we just don't imagine being the difference, we are the difference. We make sure we are making differences in the lives of our work and for individuals in our communities. This is our vision. And as you can tell from the panelists sitting here speaking with you today, we are a very diverse company. And with that, we value teamwork, leadership, innovation, and growth. And this is our values. Next slide. Thanks, Paula. So with Bayshore Home Health, as Paula has stated before, is one of Canada's largest leading providers of home health care services in Canada. They're Canadian owned for over 50 years, but each branch is locally run and operated, making us very unique. Bayshore has grown to deliver a variety of necessary services and business models, including home care, both government and private funded, infusion clinics, therapy and rehab, pharma distribution. Within our home health division, we have over 50 home health locations across Canada, over 75 clinics nationwide, successfully caring for over 350,000 clients across all business divisions. The unique Bayshore division that Paula and I represent today is Bayshore Home Health. Within this consumer, also known as private division, we deliver private in-home client and family-centered care with less stress and worry for families because that's our job.
Thanks, Angel. So the takeaways for today that we're really hoping we'll get across include, we're hoping to offer practical information related to helpful tips and reminders around fall prevention. We're looking to showcase a better understanding of the trends that we observe in private home care. We are looking to share the keys to proactive planning and how to leverage from a circle of care, as well as additional opportunities to leverage. We'll be going through key signs and symptoms of delirium. We will be visiting how we can best support our community members whom are living with dementia. And we'll wrap up by using words with dignity and sharing some tips on how we can reduce ageism in our community. So the first scenarios that we're going to go through are sort of a visual exercise. And within this exercise, we're looking at the bedroom of my grandmother. You can see in this bedroom space on the left side, what's wrong versus the right side, what's better. And there are key fundamental elements that would pose as a risk in these unique physical settings, pose a risk for falls. One, you can see that there's poor lighting against the exterior wall. So we've installed in the much better scene a night light. You can see as it relates to number two, the adaptive mobility equipment, the walker. In what's wrong photo, it's far away from the bed, not in close proximity to where my grandmother would be getting up and rising and going to bed. Number three, you can see there's draped blankets and tripping hazards on the floor as it relates to the bedroom sheeting, sort of not being made quite set. Lastly, you can see in image number in the second image, although it's not clearly named or identified, there is a telephone on the bedside table. So a quick opportunity to have reference or access to a tool to help reach out to call someone should there be any type of need. The next room that I'm going to quickly go through, again, to help us think about how we can improve and support falls prevention. Here's a common hallway, a common corridor and staircase. You can see number one, again, what's wrong versus what's much better is we have a handrail installed. We really want to be sure that all of our corridors, most importantly, our staircases have in the least one handrail. Two handrails may also be really relevant and supportive to someone who's moving through their aging journey and may have balance issues. Number two showcases lots of books and clutter on the staircase, very common in most households that have more than one story. So you can see the alternative in the much better visual image. You can see that the clutter is cleared from the floor. The clutter is cleared from those staircases. So this is a great habit for everybody to build in particular when we're working and supporting with seniors aging in place at home. And thirdly, number three, you can see the light switch is available in the much better solution. I believe it's by law with any new building code that light switches are installed at the top and the base of all staircases, but making sure that we have the necessary and appropriate illumination can help contribute towards falls prevention. This image here are common scenarios for a kitchen. Here in image number one, you can see there might be quite a bit of materials that are stored in a cupboard, which is easily accessible. So in the much better image, resetting and ensuring that those items that are most frequented are in an easy to access location, so that we're reducing the likelihood of needing to climb up on the counter and pull things from the top of the shelf. In the image that compares number two, you can see in the what's wrong image, it has an area rug. Area rugs are a tremendous hazard and tripping hazard for seniors, all of our community members, but more so for seniors who may have changes in their gait. So by removing that area rug at the station sort of in front of the sink would be a very supportive and preventative measure as it relates to falls prevention. Thirdly, you can see that the pet bowls in the what's wrong image are in sort of a funny spot as well. Very likely that there will be a lot of activity in that corner of the kitchen by my grandmother. So by removing the pet dishes to another area of the home that are not necessarily out of sight, but out of the way of tripping would be a very, very important consideration. There's one more room to go through quickly, and that's the bathroom. So when we're looking at the different bathroom equipment here, in the first image, again, number three, I'm jumping to number three because it's the area rug. This is one of the most frequent tripping hazards that all of us have in our homes. Number two, you can see that there's no handrail beside the toilet. Handrails really help support with balance issues and help with our senior members transitioning from a standing state to a seated state and vice versa. You can see number one, there's been an installation of a handrail outside of the shower. And number four, there's been an accommodating adaptive bath seat that has been installed into the washroom to enable the individual to be seated for their shower hygiene exercise. And you can also see that there's a shower wand added to enable independence, autonomy, but first and foremost, assure falls prevention and safety mitigation. All in all, fall prevention, which we can see day in and day out in all of our unique homes and environments, falls prevention is the leading, or falls in general, forgive me, are the leading cause of injury related hospitalization for all seniors. The average length of stay after a fall for a senior is 3 weeks. So it's a tremendous burden on our healthcare system. And again, this can be preventable. Falls naturally increase with age, especially after we meet the 80-year threshold. 40% of admissions to long-term care, or otherwise known as nursing homes, are correlated to falls and the recovery thereafter. 90% of falls cause hip fractures. And most importantly, 50% of falls leading to hospitalization happen at home. But as I said, there's good news. Falls are preventable and actions can be taken by all. One last note to be considerate, it's not just the physical environment that it can have a direct impact on falls prevention. not managing hearing and visual problems, not monitoring low and treating low blood pressure, cognitive impairments, foot drop, which may show itself with seniors with different health conditions. Decreased flexibility, strength and balance will contribute towards falls. UTIs, urinary tract infections, which we'll get into a couple of slides later as it correlates with delirium. Inadequate diet, medication side effects. All of these possible scenarios can contribute to our senior loved ones at home falling. So if we can get ahead of the game by way of ensuring we are well positioned to prevent falls, there will be a significant change in resulting rather on our public healthcare system, as well as additional supports that will be needed over the long haul. Angel?
Thank you. So I'd like to talk about right now Canada's landscape. As you can tell, our seniors are living longer and than ever before, and we can thank modern medicine for that. But as we age, certainly there's activities such as our daily living that are essential for maintaining our independence, and those are becoming more and more challenging. Our private customized service model not only supports the desire, but the ability for your senior and loved ones to age in place. And as you can see, there's 91% of Canadians that report they'd rather stay in their homes. And from recent events, that you can tell that home is a safe place to be. As we age, additionally, our services may reduce the burden of support for each of you and your teams. As you know, there are many extended family members who are looking for a peace of mind, reducing the double duty of the sandwich Sandras. And I happen to understand that personally because I'm one of those sandwich Sandras, as they say. You know, I'm a working mother, I have young kids at the home, and I have aging parents that both require my attention. So as we are there to help our clients and help the families and improve life balances by reducing the competing family stressors that we're experiencing, we can definitely make sure that we're there to support and provide that care that is needed. Next slide. So we are typically supporting clients in our community with one of the following needs, because as you can tell, the healthcare system in Canada, it's struggles to say the least. But as we are approaching a new and significant change in healthcare, there's chronic disease, a fall resulting in mobility incompetence or rehabilitation. We are typically our clients in the community with one of the following needs, such as new and significant change in health, caregiver burnout, which is becoming more and more commonplace, limited informal supports, strong commitment to age in place, which is safety concerns, and inadequate support from public health funded care that we have in different provinces. For different provinces, we have, as Paula will tell you, each province has its own publicly funded care that families can dip into that actually will provide support privately. By 2042, actually, 1 in every 4 Canadians will be a senior. Our healthcare system isn't ready for this. As you can tell, if you go to the emergency rooms right now, they're packed. There's people in the hallways. So there's longer wait times for specialized geriatric care of diseases. So therefore, you know, it correlates with the increase of risk to death and hospitalizations, actually. For emergency support care, the longer wait times reduce the likelihood of willingness to the client and patient to go back. The negative cycle immobilizes necessary assessments and treatments to manage evolving health conditions.
So, you know, there's a changing perspective as it relates to home care, and I'd like to sort of showcase that by way of a daycare analogy. So, in the mid 20th century, daycare services at the time were stigmatized and could have been viewed as a last resort for many working parents who were unable to fulfill their responsibilities. However, over time, with societal changes and increased workforce participation and gender based equity, the demand for daycare grew. Early in the 2000s to today, daycare services have gradually shed any possible stigma as the research highlighted the positive impact of quality early childhood education. And now there's been a greater push for greater accessibility, funding, and quality of standards, leading to this shift in societal perception. So from the 1950s, the perception was stigmatized, and now I don't know anybody who wouldn't be, if they were planning a new family, a new young family, top of mind would be, how are you going to get our new baby into daycare? Similarly, in home care services have been stigmatized, and they may have been perceived as a loss of independence and a hesitancy to rely on others from the lens of the senior. However, home care has also experienced a shift in perception. The desire for seniors to age in home has increased the demand for home care services like ours, and it provides as a practical solution for families who are facing the challenge of providing continuous care. As time passes, home care is being recognized as a compassionate and practical option to ensure the well-being and independence of aging individuals.
I actually have to say, this is one of my favorite slides because it truly encompasses everything that it involves with the care for a loved one. And it truly does take a village. As you walk through the circle of care here, you understand that our loved ones who require care rely on their families, rely on their friends. The community is highly involved. Our employers actually um, are also taking recognition that they need to be more involved with helping families with their loved ones' care. There's also government supports, paid supports, your family doctor, specialists. All of these people work together in a dance per se to help care for our loved ones. And it's navigating this circle that sometimes can be difficult, but with the proper research, being proactive and looking ahead, it can really help with this circle of care for your loved one.
So just a couple more points. When yes, the informal support such as family and friends, that can be a given. Some of our senior members don't have close family and friends that are in close proximity to help support with day-to-day needs. When it
Mhm.
comes to community and that element of the circle of care, that reminds me of community groups. So being a part of community social groups or seniors groups, such as the Alzheimer's Society, leveraging their resource, their expertise in supporting a particular area of care needs. Um, and and the reality is that we have to have more open and honest dialogues around how the shoulder of the support can't just rest on one unique element of this circle of care. To meet the needs of a senior community member, it takes a village, right? Like the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise or to support a senior. And I often share with clients and their families that, many of our seniors will wear the cloak of competency. They want to mask some of the truths that they might be experiencing. They may mask the truth around falls they may have experienced. They may say they had a fall, but maybe this is the fourth fall they've had in a week. But they may be worried about them being a burden to sharing this information. But we really want our seniors and our family and friends to have open and honest dialogue so that the senior is not wearing the cloak of competence, so that they can openly disclose with confidence that to those people that know and love them that something's changing and they need additional support. And if we're all on board to help support that individual, and with them being a part of the planning, then we're going to be far more apt to be successful in wrapping around the senior and meeting their needs as they continue to move through their aging journey.
As we move through our aging journey, it is always important to look at all the resources available to you. Government care, is all I always say start there and then look outward. There's different funding models within each province that can help. Here in Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island, because I'm focused mostly out in the East Coast, they have different programs such as self-managed care, also known as different names across the other provinces. They have, as well as family managed care, all of these different resources that you should look into to tap into once you're looked at your government care to help support the care that's being provided, because that's what we're there for, is to help fill in those gaps.
Sorry, and then I guess just as
Yeah.
I mentioned sort of briefly earlier when we were talking about the circle of care, it's really
Mhm.
important to learn and draw from the informal community supports that are available in the community. Like I said, Alzheimer's Society. There's national CARP chapters. CARP, the acronym for CARP is the Canadian Association of Retired Persons. This comes with all kinds of information that's helpful to navigate the system, to look at opportunities to leverage from. And we strongly encourage that if you are in a position where you're supporting or working alongside a loved one who's moving through their aging journey, that you really connect with some of these community partners to draw from their expertise so that you're not necessarily facing new challenges on your own.
Agreed. And the Lung Association is another great organization as well that you could tap into. There's many. And as we get talking about some of the services that you could tap into as far as government, when it comes to Bayshore Home Health and our private care, we personally assess each client and or the family's unique needs to develop a personalized care plan for each one of our clients. We come prepared to adapt and find the resources available to help extend our clients' lives at home and in their community, because we know that's where they want to be. Our services availability supports the full continuum of care, from everything from light housekeeping to companionship to personal care to nursing. We have developed a model of 3-hour visit minimums. We justify this by developing a personalized plan to meet the physical needs of each client, such as bathing, dressing, toileting. We also extend our supports to meet other environmental needs, for example, laundry, changing the bed linens, kitchen light duties, simple food prep, as well as extended meal prep. Being from the East Coast, one of my favorites is shepherd's pie, I have to admit. So, our caregivers can go in and actually pre-portion out those little meals, put them in containers for future use down the week, and as well as time to meet social health and wellness needs as well, because that's just as important. So, especially with clients living with dementia, caregiver supports and respite is very often required in our community clients as well, because we want to make sure that family members are not experiencing that caregiver burnout. Um, but what things will we need to help with? These are just a small list. Some of the things that we help with is personal care, hygiene, medication management, medication reminders, nutrition, hydration, range of motion activities per client direction. We do work with OT and PT as well to make sure our clients are, and therapy and rehab to make sure our clients are staying at home longer and decreasing any hospitalizations. As well as we do the environmental hygiene, such as decluttering organizations. We do home management, such as feeding the dog, the cat, because companionship is very important to everyone, as well as socializations. And we also, lastly but not least, because we do a whole host of things from one end of the country to the next, and each branch is a little different, but we also escort clients to their appointments as well, take them grocery shopping, whatever the needs may be, we make sure we get it done.
So this slide is about delirium. And delirium is defined as a serious disturbance in mental abilities that result in a confused thinking and a reduced awareness of the environment. The start of delirium is usually rapid, within hours or a few days. And delirium, you might think, oh, they're delirious, they're crazy, they're out of their mind. But in fact, it is the symptom of infection, of something going wrong with the brain. And in our senior population, delirium is quite prevalent as it directly correlates with urinary tract infections. Many seniors are susceptible, or perhaps more susceptible, to urinary tract infections. And again, this can be preventable. Delirium is preventable. Delirium can be preventable by 6 particular ways moving around this wheel. These are sort of everyday, typical best practices for all of us to move through the world. But number one, stimulating the mind. So ensuring that we're really working on brain health games, reading, working on crosswords, engaging in conversations to help remind us about what day, month, and time it is. Moving. There's nothing wrong with 2 feet and a heartbeat. So really promoting physical activity. Strong sleeping habits is fundamental to reducing the likelihood of delirium. Making sure, again, that seeing and hearing are not just identified as an area of vacancy, but actually treated. So if you are hearing impaired, or if one of your loved ones has a hearing impairment, let's make sure that they're wearing the special devices to help support them with their hearing. Staying hydrated is probably the most prevalent reason for UTIs. So many in our community might identify that they had coffee with breakfast, perhaps tea with lunch, a soda in the afternoon, and perhaps another coffee with dinner. And of course, all of these drinks are potentially diuretics, which need to be, you know, complemented with twice the amount of clear fluid like water. So staying hydrated is top of mind with seniors. Many seniors may neglect the likelihood or reduce the likelihood of them drinking fluids outside of tea and coffee. So ensuring that water is a part of their regular habits as it relates to their hydration is super duper important. And lastly, ensuring that we are ingesting nutritious foods, lots of different colors, and this will help also reduce the likelihood of possible infection. I know that coming from Ontario, UTIs are now one of 13 ailments that are currently being treated by our local pharmaceutical companies. So if you went to the local pharmacy, if I had symptoms of a UTI, I could simply go to the pharmacist and showcase what my symptoms are showing as. And that would enable that pharmacist to be in a position to actually administer, to assess and treat those particular symptoms. So certainly treating something like a UTI is far more accessible across Canada right now as it relates to some of the new guidelines and opportunities that pharmacists have. But collectively, we can reduce the likelihood of delirium by way of staying super hydrated, moving, using our brain, and doing our best to live well with everyday activities and practice.
And as my colleague had stated, delirium is rapid onset, whereas dementia is more progressive. And in Canada, we actually have more than 419,000 Canadians aged 65 and older diagnosed with dementia. Now, don't get me wrong, you're going to see, if you search Google, you're going to see a bunch of different statistics on this number, but that's just around the average that are diagnosed. And I know that dementia affects everyone at some point in their life, if it's a friend you know, or your own parents, or a grandparent, that it actually touches each and every one of our lives at some point. But this is only part of the story. This number that we've discussed does not capture everyone. It does not capture those individuals under the age of 65 who are not diagnosed, possibly due to stigma for one, and other barriers that cause it to remain undiagnosed. And there's, if you notice that actually women, 65% of women are diagnosed with dementia over age 65. So I want to discuss about the 10 early warning signs of dementia, and as well as, if you'll notice, they're very similar to the ones for delirium, but the difference is that the signs and symptoms and treatments is a little different, because with delirium, like I said, it's rapid onset, whereas dementia is progressive. So sign one, you're going to see memory loss that affects day to day. You're going to notice that mom or dad is forgetting to turn off the stove, right? They're leaving the water running and they forgot. Sign two is difficulty performing everyday tasks. Sign three is problems with language. You're going to notice sometimes disorientation to space and time, impaired judgment, as well as problems with abstract thinking. Of course, we all misplace things, but this is going to get more prevalent as time goes on. You're going to notice a change in mood and behavior, as well as change in their personality and loss of taking the initiative. I'm all about awareness and prevention. There's a lot of modern clinical trials right now for dementia that are showing to be very promising. But until then, what we can do is making sure that we are staying healthy as a whole, that we are making sure we're eating properly, that we're sleeping, that we're getting our hearing checked. All of these things have to make sure our brain is being engaged. So a healthy lifestyle can definitely help lower the chance of developing dementia and delay the symptoms. It can also help prevent other chronic diseases and conditions, as we're all aware, in turn, that is linked to a greater chance of developing dementia. So you want to make sure that you're managing your health conditions. These health conditions can range from diabetes, depression, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. You want to make sure that you're staying active and healthy and maintaining a healthy weight. And that's different for everyone. I'm not saying go out and start dieting. What I'm just saying is stay active. You know, instead of parking the closest to the door, park at the end of the parking lot and walk to the door. We want to make sure every little bit that we can do helps. So we want to make sure we're maintaining a healthy weight. We want to protect our hearing loss because we want to keep our brain engaged. If you're noticing your loved one is having some hearing problems, get them tested. Hearing aids help balance that hearing loss and keep, and I'm repeating myself, but keep our brains engaged. I cannot repeat that enough. As well as socializing regularly with friends and other family members. Being out in the community is very helpful. Wearing a helmet when doing activities. We don't want any head injuries, such as biking, skiing, any contact sports, and cognitively challenge yourself by continually to learn new things and engaging in new activities.
So this slide here is around using words with dignity. So we're committed to supporting our community and its family members, and we need to do so with empathy. We need to be person-centered first and family-centered. So person-centered first, I mean by way of, it's a person with a disability. It's a person with a mental illness. It is not someone who is mental, insane, or crazy, that crazy man. No, it's a man or it's an individual with a mental illness. Perhaps they're living with a mental illness. So just making sure that we're putting people first. So that's all about client-centered, patient-centered, family-centered care. So we need to do this just to showcase empathy in our community. It's fundamental and super duper important. And in general, we need to normalize aging. So we can normalize aging by reducing ageism ourselves, by examining our own unique biases. We need to be committed to educate one another about aging and speak truths. I think many of our community members believe that they're going to die in their sleep, and the reality is there are a few slim percentage of Canadians and Americans who might die in their sleep, but the majority of us are going to have a bit of a rock and roll prior to that end. So be prepared. Foster positive interactions between those in our lives that are older as well as younger. Support anti-discrimination legislation and supports that you might see. If someone says something in there and it sounds ageist to you, say something. It's like any other area where we're looking to reduce barriers and showcase equity amongst our community members. One of my beefs relates to diapers and versus incontinence supplies. Diapers refer to those special supplies that we use for most of our little ones when they're in their developmental stages and they haven't yet learned the task of voiding independently on a toilet. And that's when diapers are used. Incontinence supplies are used at a later stage of life when our community members, our loved ones, are no longer able to control their bowel or their urinary tract. So it's very, very different. It's not out of choice. It's not out of a lack of learning. It's a lack of being able to keep those fluids and waste in their body. So we need to refer to these supplies as incontinence supplies. Most often they're referred to as briefs. So let's not call them diapers because they aren't. We will call them briefs. Lastly, as it relates to wheelchair etiquette, as we continue to move through the world and we may become more reliant on specialized adaptive equipment, that might be a walking cane, it might mean a walker, it could be a wheelchair. Let's be mindful that the wheelchair, for instance, is an extension of that individual's body. So before, coming behind someone and just pushing them along, approach the individual that might be dependent on the mobility aid and say, can I help you? May I help push you to this particular area? Ask first, because it's just being person-centered and putting the individual in the forefront, not just making an assumption that someone is looking for your help because they're dependent on a mobility aid. When it comes to the success that we have within our teams across Canada here at Bayshore, we are heavily invested in leveraging and supporting through partnerships. So the Alzheimer's Society, we haven't mentioned that enough. CARP. There's an amazing document online called A Dementia Strategy for Canada. Together we aspire. There's a wonderful commercial that I saw broadcast probably about a year ago on the CBC that showcases a woman, it's a TV commercial that showcases a woman going through the checkout line, a little bit flustered because she can't find her list, but there's individuals in line waiting to be checked out who are irritated, annoyed that she's slowing the process of the line moving through. And everyone sort of is upset with this woman that's obviously in distress. And one of the clerks who's bagging the groceries says, "Ma'am, can I help you? Can I help you find your list?" And he takes the time to set aside to give her some one-to-one support. So I can't say how much it is important that we demonstrate empathy in our community. As our community populations continue to rise, we will see more and more community members in vulnerable circumstances in our community, and we need to make sure that we are being kind, empathetic, and putting any of our biased previous perceptions, putting them aside. Kids and Company is definitely one of our partners, and I'm just highlighting that Manulife and Sun Life, we are in general across Canada the preferred provider for both of these national Canadian healthcare providers. So it just provides us with a little bit of sort of weight that we are an organization that is strongly rooted in clinical oversight policy, and it provides us with sort of a strong setting for success because of the way we do things at Bayshore. So just as a wrap up, the goals achieved that we've believed that we've shared and showcased today include enhancing your knowledge around aging in place. We've reviewed some of the tips and active changes that you can implement in your day-to-day operations right now as it relates to falls prevention. We've reviewed some of the trends that we see in our private home care division, including when someone has a serious health event like a fall, Perhaps there's a change in their disease management. Perhaps there's caregiver burnout in a spousal circumstance where one individual is supporting their loved one so significantly that it's impacting the health and wellness of the family unit. We talked about proactive planning and ensuring that we're leveraging from the circle of care. It's not just one possible solution or one individual that can support a senior as they move through their aging journey. It takes a circle of care. It takes a real collection of informal and formal supports to put the dots together. We strongly encourage that everybody leverage from different opportunities, including any government-funded support that might be available, and that will vary from province to province. We reviewed some information around delirium as well as living with dementia and some of the tips that might be helpful in identifying early dementia. And lastly, we spoke around using words with dignity and sort of showcasing and celebrating aging. We live in a society which is all about anti-aging, and we need to flip that upside down, because here we are in a position where our senior population is blooming, and we need to celebrate and support those individuals because they are incredibly important to each of us.
Mhm. So in Paula's words, let's really celebrate it. Let's celebrate aging.
So that's a wrap for what we had to share today on, for our presentation. Fanny, can you help lead Angel and I to some of the questions and answers if there are any?
Yes, thank you so much, ladies, for that amazing Kidco talk. Just a reminder to all attendees here that if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So Paula and Angel, we do have some questions from the audiences here. Actually, I see a lot of them being interested in getting copies of the slides and parts of the presentation. So I do want to remind everyone that we will be sharing a recording with all registrants at the end of today's session. So our first question is, what is the recommended or ideal age that my parents should be for me to start looking into resources and support?
Well, I'll start with that answer. I have to say that the earlier the better, because you want to build that relationship with any agency you go with, because you want that consistency and continuity with you as your mother ages. So you could begin with light housekeeping, something very small. It doesn't have to be full blown 24 hours, 7 days a week care. You want to build those relationships, and the earlier you can start, the better.
It's really about establishing a foundation of trust. So in terms of just the high level sort of dialogue around opening up conversations, Angel and I, for the most part, work in a reactive business. So as Angel mentioned, if there's an opportunity to introduce some informal practical supports like light homemaking, some housekeeping, someone to come in once a week to help with some light domestic tasks, like change the sheets, we'll do it together. Make sure that it's done in a meaningful engagement so that it includes your mom and your dad. And ideally, it will present itself sort of like an extension of family. Ideally, we're looking to establish the foundation of trust with our seniors and their extended family members. And then as things continue and evolve, that foundation of trust will really enable success by way of changing the care plan as things change, as the healthcare needs change, as events change. And another really important tip is we are very committed to consistency as it relates to the continuum of care. So ideally, we are looking to assign the same provider week over week, so they get to know your mom and dad. They get to have, they're strongly familiar with the physical environment of your family's home, of your loved one's home, the dog, the nosy neighbor, all of the things that sort of contribute to an in-home support visit. And we can't do that. There's never an early enough time really to enable that. So the earlier the better. But what's most important to me is that open and honest discussions are starting now, so that your extended loved ones who are going through their senior changes know that they have a safe space where they can truly be open, so that we can collectively normalize the aging process and celebrate our loved ones as they move through the world.
Thank you, ladies. So here are some other questions. What are the key signs that it might be time to consider additional support or change in living arrangements for a loved one?
Well, it just really depends upon the signs that you're seeing. Are we, is it the signs of maybe dementia? Is your loved one forgetting, uh, the oven on? Is she forgetting the bathtub that is running? It just depends on the signs and symptoms to progress that person to depend upon where their living situation will be. But there are supports along the way, and I have to say, Bayshore, doesn't matter where home is, can support you wherever home may be.
And I can't stress enough as well, thank you, Angel, that you know, we each have a responsibility to make sure that we're leveraging from any government support that might be available. So in Ontario, we have the provincial provider is called HCCSS, Home Care and Community Support Services. It used to be called the LIN. It used to be called the CCAC. They keep changing the naming convention. But by way of having your loved one's name on their radar, by way of enrolling them, when the health event shows itself, in the least we have the government supports in the ready with demographic information. They'll still need to make assessments to see what they might be able to do to contribute to meet the needs of your loved one. But you know, ultimately we live and work in a reactive system. So I give the example all of the time as it relates to my mom recently doing a bathroom renovation. She removed her little shower, got a new one, nice glass door, it's gorgeous, but there's no handrail in the shower. And I'll say, Mom, where's the handrail? And she, oh, Paula, I don't need it now. Well, and I'll respond by saying, Mom, you're going to need it when you're on the floor of your shower. So, we can't do this quick enough. I can also say personally, when I do presentations to senior groups in the community, and we give out a couple of gift bags for lucky participants, there are motion censored lights that you can buy at Home Hardware or Home Depot that you can affix to the wall, no hardware required, battery operated, that are motion censored. So you can put these lights in the corridors on the way from the bedroom to the washroom. Again, reducing and preventing injury. It's all about prevention and getting ahead of the game.
Mhm. I agree. Definitely, you want to be proactive. And if you're earlier in the game right now, definitely take advantage of that.
Can you provide advice on how to approach difficult conversations with a loved one about their changing needs and preferences as they age?
Now, this is a good question because we've experienced it all, from everything from, where we've had to go into a home and say we are actually the housekeepers, and not tell a loved one that we're a healthcare company, just because of the stigma around the word home health. So it's a good question, and I would definitely start with feeling out your loved one, seeing how they react to the word home health, see how they react to the idea of bringing in help. And I think the most important thing that you'd want to remind your loved one is that this is to provide them with the support that they can have to make sure they're having that quality of life. And you always want to focus around that quality, because that's what this is about, is a quality of life. And making sure that they're still able to go to the bridge games, that they're still able to go garden, and that person can actually help them garden because they can't bend over anymore to do the weeding and the bending. Our providers, our caregivers are actually the ones supporting and assisting in that, and making sure that their social activities that they want to have can still be done. So I would definitely approach the conversations in that way, making sure your loved one understands that it's not just a healthcare company because you're aging. This is to make sure you're still being able to maintain the lifestyle you want, to stay in the home that that you want, and to have that quality of life.
And I would also just share and add that it reduces the double duty on the sandwich Sandra. So as the adult child, I'm trying to meet the needs of my senior family members. I'm trying to meet the needs of my kids, my career, and I can't do it all double. So sort of expressing where some of the pain points are as it relates to, every time I'm going to my mom's on the weekend, I'm doing work. Whereas wouldn't it be nice if some of the work was attended to by a short visit once a week with paid support, so that when I do actually visit my mom on the weekend, I'm not tending to some of those practical supports and attending to laundry. I'm more so spending time with my mom and maybe playing cards and maybe working on a craft together, something that's meaningful and social.
And I just want to build upon that, Paula, as well. And something that's very important that we always strive to say is that we want you to be that child. We want you to be the daughter. We want you to be the son. We want you to maintain that relationship instead of turning into a caregiver, because it changes the dynamics between your loved one and yourself. So this is where an agency comes in. We allow you to maintain that daughter, son, brother, sister, what relationship, whatever it may be, with your loved one.
Can you share strategies for fostering open communication and collaboration among family members when making decisions about an aging loved one's care? So this could be, immediate and extended family members.
I would suggest that you start off by making a list of all of the successes that is currently in play as it relates to the individual's autonomy, what they can do on their own, identifying where the seniors' wish list is of things that they want to continue to have immersed as a part of their everyday operations. And then identifying which of those preferred activities and lifestyles will benefit additional supports to be layered in. This is very, very delicate conversations. And for the most part, I can say that our inquiries stem from adult children. They come from the sandwich Sandras and the middle guy sons out there in the world. That we don't have a special naming convention for males. But it's really trying just to break things down into little bites. This does not need to be a full-blown 24-hour operation. This can be a warm introduction to bringing some practical supports in the home, and again, enabling success for continued life in the home that is most proud, serves it with most pride. There are many clients in our community that may wish to downsize from the original sort of family home, which is also very appropriate and relevant, and transition to a smaller home environment that perhaps doesn't have quite the yard, or perhaps it has other amenities that might be available to the senior. But having the one-to-one support just enables someone to work alongside your family member and be a part of that journey. And then again, as the needs evolve and change, the supports can evolve and change to align with those changes.
And just to build upon what Paula is saying as well, some of the other strategies that have been successful, as well as creating that list that Paula has mentioned, as well as doing group email follow-ups after a meeting, as well as creating a social group where direct messages can happen in real time. Those are some other strategies that work well for families to make sure everyone is informed, everyone who needs to be informed is informed, and everyone is staying on top of it, and that there's no delay in information.
Thank you. So how do you recommend balancing the desire for independence with the need for support and care for an aging family member?
What's fundamental is really having the senior loved one be a part of building out the care plan. Where do they identify that they need the most support, and complement it with where do I, as the adult child, feel that my mom or my loved one would need the most support, and really building it out together. if the senior individual is not a part of the engagement of developing this, it will be very difficult to accept someone coming into their home. And it does take a bit of a shift for seniors to welcome outside supports when they're not conditioned to this. They're not used to this. They might, I've had a client that was starting service a couple of weeks ago in the evening, and this gentleman said, well, what do I need to do to be ready for my first visit? Should I prepare tea? How can I make this individual feel welcome? So it is an adjustment for someone, to come in and not be a guest in your home. And we have to sort of change that. But it's really about enabling an informal extension of family. We want to be there to support with, going through photo albums and learning about the family, understanding clients' preferences, really accommodating and narrowing the scope of care to be very, very customized and personalized for that person, but most certainly having feedback and input from all of the most immediate family members or those who are most connected with the senior is what's going to help with success.
Mm-hmm. And just to build upon that as well, one of the things that we find very successful is also doing meet and greets. So not only having your loved one a part of their care plan and stating, not dictating, but stating what they would prefer, but also having a meet and greet with the caregiver prior to any services beginning really helps ease that tension and creates that trust, and where the caregiver and the family member can find that balance of independence.
Thank you, ladies. That was all the questions that we had for today. Like I mentioned to everyone attending here that we will be sharing a recording after today's session. So if there was anything you missed or have any additional questions, all that information will be available in the recording follow-up email that we will be sending out. So I would like to thank you everyone today for attending this Kidco talk, and of course to Paula and Angel for sharing all of this information and resources that are so helpful to everyone here who attended today. There will be a survey that will be popping up after this, so I do want to ask everyone to take a moment and complete that. And yeah, thank you again, everyone, and have a lovely day.
Have a terrific day. Thank you, everybody.